Hey everybody, Sam here. Just doing a quick recording on a great opportunity we've got coming up in Fitzoy. Of course, Fitzoy is Australia's highest scoring walk score suburb. What does that mean? Well, it's a place marketplace, a place economy. It's obviously been driven through urban economical change, but the main concept to understand is Fitzoy is really one of the best places to hang out for people in Melbourne. So what does that translate to? Well, lots of high income earners want to live there. It's on trend. It's kind of like the number one funky, hipster, yuppie end of inner Melbourne. And that makes it, of course, a popular growth playground for the rich, for the aspiring to be wealthy people of Melbourne when it comes to both downsizers and up and coming executives looking to live in the neighbourhood. In fact, the neighbourhood is really tightly held, very contested when it comes to real estate. So we like to start these talks by understanding the growth strategy behind what we're up to. And we're going to look at adding some value by actually buying off the plan with this property. We're doing urban renewal in a place economic neighbourhood as our location. Melbourne, of course, is our major marketplace, which is well on its way to becoming Australia's big city, over 8 million people due in just 3 decades' time. And of course, is the property going to get that extra level of growth by being well designed and well an attractive proposition for resale? So we're going to start by examining the area. And the area or the street this property's in is actually one of the best locations in Melbourne. Now, I don't use these words that often, but I like to explain that this property is in a location second to none. It's an absolute trophy location. It's on Gore Street in Melbourne. You can see the city in the foreground, some of the beautiful historical churches and leafy neighbourhood surrounding this location. So Fitzoy, if you don't know where it is, it's actually quite close to Melbourne CBD, just under 2 kilometres away. It's connected by tram as well as easy walking distance into the city itself. When we look at the actual property we're examining today, it's 85 apartments over 7 levels with 1 bedrooms, all with parking starting from $469,000. In particular, today we're focusing on the 1 bedrooms. We feel that this market really is going to speak to the executive person in the neighbourhood, and in particular, the 1 bedrooms are of good value in this particular street. So how are we going to add value to this property? Well, this is our first step, and we're going to be looking at houses versus unit price growth, old versus new, and benchmarks of similar properties in the neighbourhood. Let's start with houses versus units and the price growth associated with that. We can see that Fitzoy has really seen huge levels of housing growth over the last 3 years. In fact, 65% capital growth in 3 years. Amazing amount of capital growth. Today, the median house price is $1.625 million, which is astronomical. So, of course, value for downsizers, value for entry-level buyers is certainly in the apartment space. And we've seen some record properties actually being sold. The bottom right is today the current record for a terrace home sold in Fitzoy, and that just happened quite recently at $4.9 million. So we can see that literally the property value or median value for a home is 1.6 million, and for an apartment we're still at a really good level. In fact, just cruising along, and we're seeing that level sort of sit about $550,000. So that's a massive, massive difference, an $880,000 difference. At some point, that speaks to the marketplace. Same suburb, same location, but obviously much more affordable. And guess what? In a suburb like Fitzoy, it's not about owning a house where you're going to cook, and in Fitzoy, you go out for dinner. So apartment living or community living is very much on trend because you don't use just your home, you really take and embrace the neighbourhood. So when we look at the property market in Melbourne and particularly the apartment space, what's so fascinating is the capital growth in apartments is now 10 years overdue and it's finally started to grow, which is fantastic. So the lead indicator for the marketplace is the housing market. The housing market is really approaching its peak in Melbourne in inner city locations. It's probably sitting at around 11 o'clock. However, the lag indicator is the apartment market. At some point, that has to compress closer to the house prices. And of course, when we look at houses, it's at 11. When we look at apartments, we're at about 7 o'clock on the property clock, which is fantastic. In fact, last year, apartments grew by close to 10%, which took it off the bottom of the market and into that start of recovery phase, which is what we want to buy. It's the ultimate position to be putting our money into the marketplace. Old versus new, what's going on? Well, you can see literally in Fitzoy today, there is a massive market for secondhand properties, and these properties, which are not as pretty as the properties we've assembled for you today, are selling for, if not more, also around the same price. So understanding we've got entry-level properties at $465 in a better location, better design block, brand new, and people are paying already up to $100,000 more for second-hand properties. Why is that so? The reality is many people just want to get started living in this neighbourhood, don't want to wait 2 years for a property to be constructed for them, and feel safer buying something existing and will pay more for it. And I tell you what, because there is a high disposable income in the neighbourhood of wealthy downsizers and aspirational executives, money is not the object, location and being active in the suburb is. We can see, again, here's a one-bedroom sold for $810,000 for a one-bedroom property. So there's some massive benchmarks in the neighbourhood because it is the #1 place economy suburb in Melbourne today. So wealthy people of all stature will hit the neighbourhood and pay for the property in the area. When it comes to square meter rate comparables, what does that mean? Well, with apartments, often we analyse what it costs to build, and the concept there is we're valuing how our building stands against other buildings in the neighbourhood. Well, we're already seeing that, for example, in East Melbourne, which is literally the next suburb, one bedrooms, no parking, 11,830. One bedrooms, no parking at near Fitzoy Gardens in East Melbourne, 17,763 a metre. We're literally about 900 metres away and we're at 10,373 a metre. We are, in fact, virtually the least expensive, best located property in the neighbourhood, surrounded by some more expensive properties. What does this mean for you? Well, it means you know that the neighbourhood is growing. People are paying big dollars to buy properties. And what that means is you can do very, very well by buying brand new. Second-hand properties are more expensive. First-hand properties are more expensive. Our location is top-notch. And once you see the video of the street and neighbourhood, I think you'll agree it is one of the prettiest little quiet, quaint neighbourhood streets in Fitzoy. Proximity versus nearby suburbs. We can see that Fitzoy has a median house price of $1,625,000. It's not an inexpensive suburb, it is an expensive suburb, but by being really at the top of the food chain, that's not going to stop. More people are going to live there. It's the trendiest place in town. So you can see that East Melbourne is virtually twice that. So we're benchmarking literally across the road for our ripple effect into this neighbourhood. So let's examine the location. What Fitzoy? Well, it's obviously driven through place economics, urban renewal, and you can see a classic example of really the lifestyle right on screen. Many of the neighbourhood has heritage listed facades. It's really a former industrial area. And really government and developers are doing their best to keep a lot of that heritage look and feel, but obviously activate the neighbourhood with new restaurants, new bars, new retail, new shops, new boutiques, as well as making it quite a fashionable place for smart, skilled, knowledge workers, as well as wealthy downsizers. So what we're going to examine is what the suburb is like compared to other cities, the DAs in the neighbourhood, key infrastructure within the suburb, the income demographic of the suburb, population forecasts, and income versus house price. So if we look at really what it compares to in Sydney, Fitzroy is classically Surrey Hills. It is, the two are literally pegged, right? And absolutely great comparable, except Fitzroy is half the price of Surrey Hills. Brisbane, we're talking New Farm, again, the trendiest suburb in Brisbane versus the trendiest suburb in Melbourne. Adelaide, Bowden, Perth, Northbridge, Newcastle, Cooks Hill, and Hobart, Salamanca, Battery Point. These are what the comparables would be in your own city. So key infrastructure, it's so much infrastructure around this particular neighbourhood, from trams to great retail to education, literally hospitals, services. You've got Royal Exhibition buildings, you've got St. Vincent's Private Hospital, you've got supermarkets, you've got Smith Street shops, you've got wine bars, you name it. It is full of local infrastructure. And of course, being so close to Melbourne CBD, you've got on your doorstep 400,000 office workers, which of course, many of them want to live close to work and literally can be home in 15 minutes from their office job in the CBD of Melbourne. Currently, there are 449 residential properties in DA in the suburb. However, the absorption rate of the suburb is quite high, meaning that supply of new properties versus the population growth in the suburb versus the sales rate in the suburb means it essentially gets absorbed very, very quickly. In fact, as the properties sort of hit the market, Fitzroy is essentially an undersupplied property market. And it is very hard to find sites in Fitzroy and activate them. There is a lot of heritage, there is a lot of retail, there is a lot of council concepts to be adhered to. And the city of Yarra, where Fitzroy is, well, it is the #1 place economy suburb or place economy marketplace in Melbourne. And they often call it the sort of tech capital of Melbourne as well, the city of Yarra. It has one of the tightest rental markets in Australia, 0.9%. What does that mean? Well, if a property becomes available, it's virtually rented within 3 to 5 days. So you imagine just getting it cleaned and then back up and it has a new occupant ready to go. Rents have increased over the last 12 months by 14.2%, meaning the yield in the neighbourhood is one of the best in Melbourne. What does that mean for you? Well, the rents can virtually pay for the debt you take on from the bank, meaning your mortgage is covered and you're well and truly not taking much money out of your back pocket. Demographic growth drivers, if we look at the walk score, it is considered an absolute paradise for walking. You can walk everywhere. No other suburb in Australia has a walk score of 100. This particular suburb is carrying the best walk score in Australia. If we look at the highest income bracket, it makes up a large proportion of the suburb. We can see that people are earning anywhere from $78,000 to $180,000 a year, which of course is a huge proportion of people. Professionals make up the main workforce of the suburb, and that's certainly in line with obviously its proximity to the CBD, which is just fantastic. Literally a great little walk into downtown Melbourne. When we look at the household size, we can see it's a pretty good mix of one-person households and two-person households, so 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, really where the market sits at the moment. And we can see that really the bachelor degree, or the neighbourhood, is made up of smart people. And I'll talk about this a lot. Follow knowledge workers, because the jobs of tomorrow are very much connected to people with degrees from advanced diplomas to bachelor degrees, because those people are going to earn more. When they earn more money comes to the suburb. When more money comes to the suburb, the higher the property values start to grow. When we look at the income ratio versus the value indicator, we can see, for example, if you look at East Melbourne, which is adjacent suburb to Fitzroy, households are spending 31 times their income on their houses compared to Fitzroy's, which is an 18 times multiplier. In other words, people can still afford Fitzroy, and that's pegged against houses. So when it's pegged against apartments, we're at 7 times multiplier. That is essentially quite a low rate, and still allows for this city to grow and grow and grow. And we think that really the heat now is on. Buy yourself an apartment in a suburb where essentially the incomes can well and truly afford apartment living. So we're going to look at the market. Just a quick touch on Melbourne. We know that Melbourne is well and truly on its way to becoming Australia's biggest city. By 2051, Melbourne will be Australia's biggest populous city, 8 million people. And we're going to examine the capital growth forecast and the rental growth forecast. Capital growth, Melbourne is expected in 2018 to actually increase in value by anywhere from 7 to 12%, according to SQM research. And rental growth is considered to be growing as well, up 2 to 4%. So what does that mean? More money for you. So when it comes to beating the market, I like to buy properties which are design-led. And as you can see from this render, we've got floor-to-ceiling glass, we've got timber flooring, we've got down lighting, which is really special, got a nice-looking kitchen, nice-looking feel to this property. So when we examine design, I like to look at some floor plans, some design logic, the delivery team, the liquidity of the market, what it actually costs to own the property. So let's look at some human design logics. Now, what does this mean? Well, humans actually think about property when it comes to buying it as an owner-occupier very differently to what an investor does. So investors want, owner-occupiers want something visually pleasing, they want something that's fun, and they want something that makes them feel really proud as a property owner. They're the big 3 key principles. So why that's important to you as an investor, you want to buy something that actually matches the marketplace, being the owner-occupier marketplace, by offering them something visually pleasing, something that's going to give them or lead them to a nice and better life through behavior, and something that's actually going to make them feel good about themselves. If you buy something like that, then of course you can always sell it because there is a massive marketplace. So let's look at the visual aesthetics to this property. We can see without question it is well designed, integrated fridges, some nice sort of shelving, plenty of cupboard space, plenty of open light, plenty of natural light, plenty of windows, beautiful timber flooring, you name it, it is looking really good. I can even pick up outside that on the balcony, underneath the other balcony, you've got a timber, essentially a timber look and feel of the roof of the balcony. So there's so much that is visually pleasing about this property. Does this property have great behavior? Well, absolutely. Some of the apartments have built-in study desks, catered for that professional knowledge worker. But mainly, this property is also providing a rooftop garden area, barbecue facilities, and outdoor lounge area and a fire pit, which of course, what that means is for the downsizer executive, if they're going to live in this area, they're going to feel good. They're thinking right now, wow, I can sit on the roof any day of the week. I can go up and look at the skyline of the city, have a glass of wine, cook myself a piece of fish, and chill out looking at the CBD. every property apartment has access to the rooftop, and that means for owner-occupiers, it's pretty special. So the property also has some pretty cool behaviours, things for people to do. Literally, due to the large usage of bicycles in Fitzroy, there are 45 resident bicycle spaces in the basement. So again, the walk score or cycle score concept is huge, which is amazing, right? So included also is a bicycle service station allowing riders to repair and maintain their bikes on site, complementing secure residence bicycle storage space and additional 20 visitor bicycle space. Amazing, right? So it's all about the community coming together. Everyone now is going, you know what? I'd rather live 1 or 2 kilometers to the CBD. I want a sustainable building. I want something beautiful. I want to have my bicycle. Yes, I'm getting a car space, but you know what? I'm keen to also live that hipster lifestyle. So this building is creating a behavior around it, and these little things really do speak to the marketplace. When it comes to reflective design, someone feeling proud about the property, well, you've got full height sliding doors, you've got concealed pelmets, you've got timber flooring, you've got literally integrated fridge, LED light strips, you name it. You've seen how beautiful the properties are. Integrated range hood, stone bench tops, you name it. This property is speaking to the marketplace. Waterfall splashbacks. You've got Euro appliances, integrated study, you name it. It's happening. So without question, here's a look at the bathroom. It looks absolutely stunning. You've got, again, a lot of reflective design characteristics that speak to the marketplace. So literally, the developer is offering integrated fridge, integrated dishwasher, microwave. So they're going to build in literally all the appliances into an offer. And that offer is around a $20,000 offer literally for our customers, which is really exciting. Around $20,000 worth of upgrades at no cost for our customers. AC to living room, $6,800. Timber flooring, $7,900. Custom bathroom vanity, $1,500. Stone waterfall splashbacks, $1,200. So this extra $20,000 is massive. And this is going to be the difference 10, 20, 30 years from now, where you're speaking and selling your property. A lot of this stuff will stand the test of time and do very, very nicely for you. So let's look at a floor plan: light, frontage, internal space, outdoor space, orientation. This is a 1-bedroom we're examining. You can see it's got a pretty good outdoor area. Looks like it's got a private entry, this one. And this one looks like a cracker. It's got nice wide frontage, 6 meters, 59 internal, 11 courtyard, north facing to maximize sunlight. Pretty cool. So in relation to the delivery team, SMA is the developer, architect is Hayball, interiors is XR. So the final piece of the puzzle is just examining the liquidity of the market. And we can see from days on market, units are really, really, really fast, 45 days. So the average days on market is 90, and this is twice the speed of that. What does that tell us? There's literally so many people wanting to buy in the neighborhood. Last year, settlements, 99 sales last year, which is pretty high. So you've got a big marketplace, fast marketplace. People want to buy there. Property does not sit around, which is what we're looking for. When it comes to understanding, for example, the cost to hold a property, if we were to buy a 1-bedroom for $479,000, it would cost us $32 a week out of our own back pocket after the rent is collected and after we do our tax reductions. Rent in dollars for a 479 is $450. That's a 4.7% rental return. So time to do the deal. It's around sort of 18 months to 2 years off the plan. You need a 10% deposit and you come back and settle the property with a balance of 90%, usually borrowed by the banking institution. So this deal, very much approved by us. We want to get it started. It's fantastic. Check out the video when you get a few moments. Thanks for listening. Catch you soon.